edition and segment of Long Island Talks podcast. We're talking business today with Joe Beauchamp. He is president of Beauchamp Team Growth Solutions. And we're excited to talk to Joe, by the way, who is a member of the MacArthur Business Alliance. We all know that great organization. And I should also mention that today's podcast is sponsored by TechWorks. All kinds of IT services, camera surveillance, and all kinds of high-tech stuff located in Ronkonkoma. A great company, great leadership, which we're going to talk about leadership. Too often, Joe, welcome, by the way.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. I was saying before we got on camera that I feel like you can immediately feel from talking to an employee, and that employee might be many levels below the leader. The CEO many times is really where the buck stops. And you can immediately tell that that person is throwing off a vibe, a business culture that would be indicative of the leadership behind them.
Absolutely.
So I'm so glad to know that a company like yours exists, and I'd love to hear your comments on your day-to-day challenges and what you're putting across the companies.
Yeah, great. Thank you. So it's been said that culture eats strategy for lunch. And it's super important for leaders of an organization to deliberately figure out what corporate culture they want. Like, what are the core values that their team needs to adhere to in order to get to their vision, their mission as a company? Too often, businesses have goals that are numbers. I want to make a certain amount of money. We want to get to a certain, market share. We want to be number one in our local market, whatever kind of thing that is, without considering how are we going to get there? What do our people need to believe, and what do they need to do on a day-to-day basis to get there? And so I'll enter a company, and when I start working with them, I see that there's often a giant hole somewhere. I feel sometimes I feel like I'm a physician. I do like a diagnostic checkup and see, okay, yeah, this is working, but this is not working. And very frequently I can point out in a company, hey, you're probably experiencing these type of things. And they're like, yeah, has somebody spoken to you before? I'm like, no, but you told me this. You didn't tell me this. If this piece is missing, these are the symptoms, and this is what you're going to be experiencing. They're like, that's exactly right. That's happening today. That happened last week, yesterday.
Wow.
That's been happening for a year. We've been plagued with that for years. And I'm like, yeah, about 20 years ago when you started the company, you probably should have implemented these core cultural values, and that would have avoided this by now. But let's try to work on, turning the ship around at this point, reculturizing the company with a different set of core values, a directional set of core values, deliberate, right? So when we say values, oftentimes people think that it's like some kind of hocus pocus, spooky thing in the air, like, oh, the values, right? So, but we're really talking about the minimum standards for existing in our company. If you can't meet the minimum standards, you don't belong here. They're minimum standards, and we often look at them as an aspiration as opposed to a minimum standard.
Again, I'm so intrigued. When you walk into a company, I can't imagine the tightrope that you have to walk, because I'm envisioning that small companies where the CEO has led that company for 10 or more years, they're going to be sort of very protective and not even maybe even being able to give you the information you need to make them better. So I guess I'm almost thinking about myself a little bit. And I don't want to go too far as to say that I would say that I know all the answers, because I'm definitely not that person. I enjoy being coached as a person, as a guitar player, as anything. I understand the value of coaching.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear your take on certain, strategic moves that you're trying to make, but you have to make like 5 before that just to get the CEO to let go a little bit, to realize they're best. The other thing that I want to mention is, how do you separate the culture that the CEO may have personally as opposed to what he wants to put across as a business? I'm thinking they might be two things, but maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpackage right there. So number one is, the CEO often tells me all the great stuff about his business or her business, right? And I figure out what's left over when they finish painting the picture, where the missing pieces are. Based upon what's missing is where I can diagnose, well, you didn't tell me this, therefore this is probably happening, right? The other thing is understanding that leadership is influence, right? I'm not going to go in and flip a light switch and then change the company. It's not like, I can't go to like a computer and pull a card out and put a new motherboard or new circuit board or whatever in there, and all of a sudden it works completely different. It's all brand new and better, right? with human beings, I wish it was like that. It's just totally not. So we're dealing with incremental change. What little incremental, percentage growth can we get over the course of time? So if I talk to the CEO, and the CEO owns the company, they not just owns it literally physically on paper owns it, but owns this is my company, identifies with the company as me and I am the company, right? That's a hard thing to be yeah, I'm actually the problem. My lack of focus on core values, or my flexing a little bit on some of these core values, has really led to these problems. It's a hard pill to swallow, but there's always progress that can be made. There's always an incremental step that can be made, and that's really where growth happens, right? Small incremental steps, one step at a time, one bit of self-awareness, one strategy, one step, and that adds up over time. So compounded interest is, I don't know, Einstein said seventh wonder of the world or whatever it was, right? So compound interest occurs on growth as well, right? So 1% improvement week over week is 68% year over year. What company wouldn't want to grow 68% year over year? And it only takes 1% improvement week by week to make that.
Yeah, that's absolutely amazing. Do you often also, or how would you handle if you had somebody, assuming you do interviews with different employees to get the whole picture? I can also see you having a one-on-one with somebody in the company and they're going, Joe, yeah, you've uncovered something that I've been trying to tell this company for years. You probably hear this all the time. But the good part about that is, God, and you got to be so sensitive about this, when you bring these findings back, there's some backup for it, and therefore now, hey, we're not just talking about change, but we actually should make this change to grow and be successful. Not only growing numbers, as you said, but a more cohesive unit.
Oh, absolutely. So what we find is immediately stress levels go down, right? So the culture of the company, the feeling, how it feels to be in the company, feels better very quickly as people start to implement some of these changes of mindset and changes in behavior. Now, the great thing about coaching is I could, I know as clear as day that the person needs to do, steps X, Y, and Z, right? The person might only be able to accept step W. Mm-hmm. But you know what? That's that small incremental step in the right direction. Let's just take step W then, So it's okay if the person on the other side isn't seeing all the possibilities or even believing that they're real or whatever. Mm-hmm. But if they can just see the next step in front of them, let's just take that step, right? And so that's where we can really see some progress. And I've had clients that have had literally 50% year over year growth based upon a couple little small incremental changes here and there, but just continuously making small incremental changes.
So your service, is it oftentimes multiple visits?
Absolutely.
Give me a typical scenario of how you might work with a company, and a little bit about your background, because I think you need a special sort of set of skills to do what you're doing. Confidence being one of them.
Yeah. So generally, if I start working with a company, it's helpful to work with them, to meet with the same people on a weekly basis, once a week. Once they get some momentum behind them, they've got some traction, then we can switch to every other week. But it's never a good idea, I don't think, to really meet less than every other week. People are like, well, let's do it once a month. I'm like, once a month means that for 30 days of the month, you're going to forget that I even existed. And the day before I come back, you're going to go, oh, shoot, Beauchamp's coming back tomorrow. Let's
that is true.
What are we supposed to do to fix the company, in that day? So so it's better to make it more consistent. Yeah. Background-wise, so I started in 1995. I was 24 years old, so you can do a little math there. And I started in a major corporation, one of the top 20 largest companies in the world, in management. Everyone but one person on my team started the company before I was born. And the one person had 23 years in the company. So here I am, a leader in a company, huge organization, union. The person that I was supposed to replace left a little sooner than expected, but no problem. There was another manager there. Unfortunately, he had a heart attack 2 weeks later. So I have 2 weeks in the company, and I'm running a department by myself of a group of people who've been there longer than I've existed, and they couldn't really, they didn't have to care about me. They knew that I would be gone before any of them would be gone, So I had to lead with respect, lead with inspiration, lead with helping people to see a vision and move in the right direction. and help people to be on board with the changes that we were making. We were making lots of changes, which was kind of crazy. Like we were changing the computer systems, we were changing location, we were changing the system that everything was working on. A whole lot of changes that were being implemented right then. And I had to become a subject matter expert literally within a few months of starting a company.
Could have used AI, right?
Yeah, this is 1995. Yeah. Windows 95 was a new thing at that time.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. So leading through all this change, making it happen, handling these things. So after a number of years there, different levels of different pieces, different departments, different functions and stuff like that, I think, wow, I can help other people to develop their leadership skills. I can help other people to learn how to be more successful in business. It's really, it's consistency, and there's a set of skills and communication skills and understanding people and, being respectful and leading from listening first. And so I launched my first seminar, and I held it in New York City, and I advertised on the radio.
Wow.
Yep. And 2 people showed up.
Okay.
Well, 3 if you count me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was back in 2004. And I had no support, no idea what I was doing. Advertising on the radio was very expensive and not very effective. My commercials, I didn't even know. I listened to my commercials while I was driving. And I'm like, I don't even know what I'm saying. And I know what I'm saying. So so I kind of backed off of that. And I had 4 small children at that time, had a house, cars, wife, all the expenses and stuff. So I decided, I need to do something that I'm fulfilling some kind of purpose, that I'm doing something to add to humanity and using my ability to communicate with people. So I said, let me just become a high school teacher. So I went into education. I got my master's degree in education.
Oh, wow.
So while I was at my management job, I got my MBA in business in management. So I got my second master's degree in education, and I became a high school science teacher. And for years, I did that at various different school districts around the island. This was back in the 2008 time when recession and all teachers were getting laid off everywhere. So had a hard time landing somewhere. And after a number of years, I decided this is not really, I'm teaching a group of kids after school how to live their life purpose. And in my heart, I feel my heart tightening up, being this is not your life purpose. This is not where you're ending. This is not it. There's something else out there for me to do. Right around that same time, I had found the Maxwell Leadership Team. So John Maxwell's a leadership development trainer, coach, speaker, author, #1 leadership author in the world. The Maxwell Leadership Team is the largest leadership training organization in the world. There's 50,000 coaches like myself that have been trained and certified to train on John Maxwell stuff. And I said, what, this is the bridge that I was missing on round 1. Right? This is the background, this is the support, this is the network, this is the community that I didn't have when I had my 2 people attend my seminar. So
it's a great story.
Thank you.
How did Dale Carnegie comes to mind? Is that something that you had gone through or compared or anything like that?
Dale Carnegie's book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, I recommend to everybody. That's the quintessential foundational book on leadership, sales, relationships, human communication. I think the subtitle should be just How to Not Be a Jerk. It's an essential book. My brother told me about that book when I was like 20 years old, and I thought the title sounded so hokey. I'm like, I'm not reading that book. How to Win Friends and Influence People. I have friends. What do I need that book for? Right. So I read it, I don't know how many years ago, maybe 5 years ago. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wish I studied this book every single year in my entire life. So I read that book probably once or twice a year, just to kind of freshen up on my don't be a jerk skills.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So Joe, give me an example of a success story you've recently had. Don't mention the name of the company, but just briefly mention, how they went from 0 to 100.
Absolutely. So, so all my relationships with all my clients are strictly confidential, so I'll never mention names of people. If I do mention a name, it's usually some artificial name.
Yep.
And I don't mention the names of the companies as well. So, so I had a conversation with one of the owners of a company, and we were doing executive coaching. And he came in and he had his list of, priorities that he had that were going on at that time. I got this to get done. These are important. This is important. A whole bunch of things. And somewhere in there, I'm like, did you just tell me that sales are really soft right now? He's like, yeah, I got this. And he started going into the sales. I'm like, just throw away the entire list. You need, without sales, if you don't get that sales numbers up, nothing else matters. He's like, you're right. You're exactly right. he instantly was able to pivot right then and there and be like, okay, we're going to institute these sales programs. They said, get every single person on your company to be a salesperson. There's over 100 people in the company. I don't care if they're answering the phones or a desk worker or they're out there installing stuff or whatever they're doing, make them a salesperson. He's like, I got incentive programs for that. We're going to roll it out, whatever. And they were able to turn it around, get the sales back up again. That company still exists today. They're still a great client of mine. I still work with them.
Very, very nice.
So yeah, it's just, helping somebody to, in that regard, it was just really reflecting, just to be somebody to bounce ideas off of, to talk to, and just be able to clarify thinking. Because when you're in the mix,
so true,
as a CEO, it's so hard to kind of see through everything that's going on. So having an outside person there just to
that's
talk
valuable.
to.
Yeah, very cool. So you do that day in and day out.
All the time, yeah.
All right, well, let's get to this very exciting. Is this one of the first times you're doing this particularly? You're doing a live seminar. You're going back to seminars, but you can have more than 2 people there. I guarantee that.
Yes. Yeah, I already have more than 2 people signed up for it.
I'm very sure you do.
Okay, so Live to Lead. Live to Lead is a Maxwell leadership event. So John Maxwell, he creates an event called Live to Lead, and these big name speakers are at this event. Speaking gets recorded, and then we pay to license the rebroadcast of that event. So what we do is we mix and match between pre-recorded speakers and live local speakers. So if you want to hear a John Maxwell, a John Gordon, Malcolm Gladwell, those speakers are not going to be there in person. They're going to be rebroadcast on there. But there will be local speakers who don't cost $100,000 to show up.
But the idea is this, that someone gets give me a typical person that would go to this event.
I say that anybody can get value from this event, unless you live in a cave and never interact with other human beings. But any business leader. So especially the ideal person to show up to this is somebody who has a team of leaders and can bring 5 or 6 people from his team, or even even 2 or 3 people from the team, that they really want to change their organization. They want to take their company to the next level. So a CEO, his C-suite, the VPs, whatever the high-level executives, if they can all show up here for a day, change their mindsets, really identify, hey, these are things that we could implement in our company. Everyone's to walk away with change, just 2 basic things. Number 1 is what we think, and number 2 is what we do.
All right.
And what we do has got to be a habit. It can't be I do it today and not do it tomorrow. It's got to be a regular habit. So we want people to implement better leadership strategies on a day-to-day habit. And we want them to think differently about leadership. So upgrading the mindset, upgrading the skill set, that's the goal for the day. If everybody can walk away with a new mindset, a new skill set, that would be a real win for everybody.
Yeah, that's a win. That should happen. So this event will be January 24th, 2025.
2025, yeah.
At the Hyatt Regency in Hauppauge. Am I correct?
Correct. Motor Parkway.
Sponsored by MacArthur Business Alliance. If you want to speak a little bit about how they interact with your company, that'd be great. Or what you feel about the MacArthur Business Alliance. I know they've got a really exciting event coming up in July or June. So, but they're a great partner, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So the MacArthur Business Alliance, I'm a member of the organization, and they've been a great partner in this organization, in this event, with the planning, the organization, the accountability, the steps, the leadership, the management. All the different facets of the event. So we're partnering together on this. We're collaborating on it. So more than just a sponsor, they're a collaborator on the event. And the MacArthur Business Alliance has been a great organization. I would highly recommend any business in and around the MacArthur Airport area, plus or minus several miles, should really consider joining the MacArthur Business Alliance.
Is there a cost for the day?
There is, yeah. So it's $199 per ticket.
Okay.
Tables are $1,000 for a table of 6. So it's basically buy 5, get 1 free. And then we have sponsorships. So if you want your brand on there, logos and banners and exhibit tables, I tie into the sponsorship packages additional training and coaching. So there's the sponsorship packages are packed with value. So if somebody wants to spend $5,000, they're going to get their table, they're going to get their business promotion amongst other business leaders around Long Island, but they're also going to get additional training for their company, so that it doesn't just happen the day of. It can happen before, during, and after, so that their team can really get the maximum benefit out of it.
Wonderful. An exciting event, January 24th. It's really only less than 4 weeks away, between 3 and 4 weeks away. Let's fill the room for you. Tickets, I understand you can get them right from the website right here.
Absolutely.
Live to Lead. You can see the tickets are right there. That's fantastic.
LivetoLeadLI.com.
Perfect. And you'll be the host, so you'll be talking throughout, or
Yep.
That's great. Can someone sponsor this event?
Absolutely. We'd love to get sponsors for the event. We are benefiting Scouting, formerly called Boy Scouts of America, now called Scouting America, right? So we're supporting Suffolk County Council, local Boy Scouting here, local scouting here on Long Island. So we'd love to get sponsors to be able to not only get their brand out there, not only get the benefit of the leadership, but also be able to promote our next generation of leaders being grown. As far as I'm concerned, I was a scout from first grade to 12th grade, and when I was a kid, it is the #1 youth leadership development organization.
Yeah, I knew. See, that's where we should have went. I went back to just after you graduated high school, but you got some great organizational skills. I knew it was coming from somewhere, because that's quite a bit of year. That's like 10 years you were with Scouts, right?
Basically, yeah, 12.
Yeah,
basically, like from first grade to 12th grade.
Yeah, great. That's the real foundation of what I see in you, which is great. All right, Joe. This is fantastic. I think this is great for the MacArthur Business Alliance. Again, we thank them for the collaboration between yourself and your company. I can think I'm going to personally recommend this. I can think of a few CEOs that, quite honestly, lately they've been calling me and just let you know, hey, business is getting. I am hearing this. Business is getting tougher. I don't know if the stress level's going up, inflation, but they're saying those words. Business is getting tougher. You can't find good help. You might want to talk about that right now with me here. Is it true you can't find good help? Is that true, or is management part of the problem of not keeping good help?
So it's a combination, right? So if you have better leadership, you will retain your people better, and you will get everybody will step up in your organization. So if you have somebody who's mediocre, they'll be better. If you have somebody who's good, they'll be great.
Gotcha. With
great leadership, you can hire a great person. You're like, wow, this person interviewed so well. When they get into the culture of your organization, under the leadership of the organization, their performance level drops down. Yeah. When somebody onboards to your company, you want them to be like, wow, I need to be on my game to work here. I need to step up my game. I need to really perform. These people are amazing. I need to really perform to be here. Not, oh my gosh, there's everything. No, nobody cares. Why should I care? Yeah. You know. So when people check out, we call this quiet quitting now. You hear that all the time. When people quiet quit, they sort of just check out at work. They're just going to keep collecting their salary and do minimal contributions, minimum work, because they're not invested. They don't have a clear vision, right? So if a company has a clear vision, hey, this is how we're making the world better, as opposed to, I'm just putting money in my pocket because I can go on vacation or buy a nice car, those kind of things, right? So there's a funny little cartoon. There's a guy in front of a Lamborghini kind of thing, and the employee comes out and says, hey, boss, this is a great car. He goes, oh, I love this car. Yeah, a lot of hard work and dedication into this. Listen, if you work really hard this year, come in early, work hard, stay late, like really just grind all year long, I'll buy myself another car next year, right? So that's what employees see. They're like, I'm doing all this work and he's making all the money, or she's making all the money, right? They don't feel invested in, hey, you know what? We're making a difference in people's lives. And that's where I think people, like, especially today, especially younger people, they want to know, I'm doing something that's worthwhile. I'm not just here, I'm going to make my $20 an hour, and you're going to make, you're going to make $20 for every $20 that I'm making. You're making another $20. So you add up all the people and you're making all this money. You're driving around a nice car and I'm barely making enough money to live on, right? And none of us are making a difference. And then I answer the phone, or I talk to a customer, or I'm doing paperwork, or whatever my job is. My heart's not in it because I don't really see that I'm doing anything valuable. So to help, if a company has a vision of, hey, we're going to make life better for our employees, right? We're going to make life better for our customers. We're going to make life better for our suppliers. Like, everybody's going to be better. You're going to have 100 problems in your life, but our company is not going to be one of them. Right. We're going to be the problem solver. People are going to be invested in that. They're going to see a bigger vision. They're part of something bigger. I'm not just going there to make my $20 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever hourly pay. I'm going there to make a difference, right? And so we see a lot of great people working at nonprofit organizations, a lot of great people putting in like expertise time for free because they care about the vision of the organization. So why can't we get people to do that for businesses who are, when they're getting paid for it, right?
Interesting.
So it's not that people won't do it. It's that people don't feel connected. Yeah, they don't feel that reason. They don't feel that motivation, that higher purpose. Like, I'm doing something meaningful with my life.
Yeah, that's a great point. I'm glad we touched upon that. Joe, very valuable stuff. We appreciate you
Thank you.
spending some time with us today. Again, I want to shout out on January 24th, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. Hauppauge, Hyatt Regency in Hauppauge, 8 to 4. Grab your tickets at livetoleadli.com. And again, we want to thank TechWorks for sponsoring this segment, and we'll see you guys next time on Long Island Talks.